Taken from Exodus chapter 17, verses 1 to 7, and I'm reading from the Message. Directed by God, the whole company of Israel moved on by stages from the wilderness of Sin. They set camp at Rephidim, and there wasn't a drop of water for the people to drink. The people took Moses to task. "Give us water to drink." But Moses said, "Why pester me? Why are you testing God?" But the people were thirsty for water there. They complained to Moses, "Why did you take us from Egypt and drag us out here with our children and animals to die of thirst?" Moses cried out in prayer to God, "What can I do with these people? Any minute now they'll kill me." God said to Moses, "Go on out ahead of the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel. Take the staff you used to strike the Nile and go. I'm going to be present before you there on the rock at Horeb. You are to strike the rock. Water will gush out of it, and the people will drink." Moses did what he said, with the elders of Israel right there watching. He named the place Massah, testing place, and Meribah, quarreling, because of the quarreling of the Israelites and because of their testing of God when they said, "Is God here with us or not?"
I'm going to tell you about a pair of pants. Easily 35 years ago, when I was beginning church ministry and serving in a church building which was built in 1869 and had parking for 3 cars in the backyard, and old stained glass windows, and no study. They made a study behind the organ pipes for me, but there was no heat. So it was always an interesting negotiation to go to work. One day, on a sunny day, sitting there, working away at my desk, in a stroke, it became as dark as midnight, and a sound like a freight train came through. I walked out of my office and watched 2 of those stained glass windows sucked off the window and smashed on the views. We'd had a tornado. I walked outside, and there were trees down everywhere. There was a nice little pine tree, very pretty little thing in the front lawn that was snapped off. The fellow came up the street wearing a pair of trousers, no boots, and he had an axe in his hand and said, "I'm a lumberjack. Do you mind if I trim that tree?" I guess he was lonesome. So I said, "Help yourself." Because we were hauling wood out of that town for quite a while. There were trees down everywhere. I went into the backyard, and sure enough, there was a great old tree. This was in Ontario, so we had a lot of old-growth, deciduous trees. Down. It's going to have to be hauled out. And in the tree, there was a pair of pants. I have to understand the setting. My wife, before this, I'm not sure how far before it, but certainly before the tornado, had sighed in one of those things as half a prayer and said, "I'd like a pair of brown corduroy Levi's." That was it. I took these home. She tried to give them away. They didn't fit anybody else. Then she tried them on. They were brown corduroy Levi's. And they fit. Now, was God with us or what? Which leads us to our story about a whole people who come with a mindset of a slave, just tell me what to do, following somebody they hardly know, out into a wilderness with nothing and saying, what have we done? And finding out they don't have food, they don't have water, and there's an army coming up. Crying out for deliverance, crying out for food, crying out for water, receiving it, and now there's no water again. Is God with us or not? By the way, were you uncomfortable when I said, was God with us or what? When I talked about the pants? Because I am. This is 35 years on. I still don't know what that means. That's one of those random bits of what looks like goodness that parallels the random, sometimes overflow of what looks like evil that doesn't have any explanation in life, and we assign things to it. It's like the person who prayed as the plane was going down and was the only survivor and said, God saved me because I prayed. And the other people on the plane that prayed too, nobody knows. I don't know whether God provided those pants or not. I really don't. I'm thankful for them. My wife was really thankful for them. But if all it comes down to is I got what I want equals God's with us, well, okay. Some days are diamonds, some days are stones. What kind of a God is that? Truly, if that's the God that these people had, they should have stayed in Egypt. Because they had trouble themselves to believe something and take a trip out to the place where you have to face that kind of issue. How is God with us? How would I know that? There's a question. I've heard it stated here, it's Tony Campolo's statement, I think, Michael, but he got it from another preacher, I believe he's African American. I can't quite label that person, so help me out when we're done here. But the statement goes, it's Friday, Sunday's coming. Oh, I like that. We're in Lent. We're on our way to the very moment. It's Friday, that's the crucifixion, right? Sunday's coming, that's the resurrection. And have you noticed, Sunday's more popular than Friday? But have you also noticed that most of the time it's not quite Sunday, but Friday's coming? The time of test, the time of trial, the time of deprivation, the time in which we cry out to God in prayer, or don't give up and walk away from it, that time is often coming. And there is a promise of Sunday, and there's evidence that Sunday is coming. But the whole Bible from start to finish and the whole history of God's people is not yet. Welcome to Lent. Why do you want religion with a Friday? Seriously, this week, I think it was this week, a friend of ours who works with immigrant people who need help to find housing and work and education and etc., a whole lot of other things. It's really, really a good thing that she does. Was with a Muslim woman with whom she works. A Muslim woman is very sharp. They're in Walmart. Now, Muslims believe that Jesus was taken up into heaven. He did not die, he did not rise. So that's why Muslims are there at Christmas but not at Easter. So coming here And knowing the difference, this lady is very sharp. She's in Walmart, and they're setting up for Easter at Walmart. And she said to my friend who was Christian, "What is it with you Jesus people? Your God is going to die, and you're eating chocolate bunnies." Ah, okay. She got the Friday part, Walmart got the Sunday part. We're stuck in the middle, right? Why would you want a religion that has a cross in it? Why would you want to call it a victory? There's a Lenten question for you. Why would you want to avoid the whole thing? Why would you want to get Good Friday over fast? We do, by the way. Can't wait for Sunday, Friday. Oh, got a toothache. I don't know. But directed by God, our text says, as the narrator puts it forward, directed by God, the people leave the place where there is ample food. They had manna, they had quails, God provided water before. They leave that place and they move on by stages, slowly but surely, into a place where even if you go today, an adult in good health will last 3 days. A child less, a senior less. And you're done. You're just absolutely done. They need water. No question about that. And they were led there by God. And they set up camp in Rephidim, and there was no drop of water for the people to drink. The people took Moses to task. Here's where us leadership, there's this sort of gun sight. Give us water to drink. And the leadership takes the bait. Why pester me? Why are you testing God? Why pester me? Why are you testing God? Give us water to drink. That's a legitimate request. Who should receive it? After 3 major deliverances, is it time to ask God? I pray with the librarian at Ambrose University College. I have done so for about 25 years. It's wonderful and a very correcting experience. We both began to practice a prayer that Roman Catholics taught us, in which you have a normal conversation about things like the weather, but then one of us agrees to say to the other, "So what is your prayer to the Lord?" So if I came in today complaining that spring was not here, I hate the cold, I don't like the snow, he'd look at me and say, "So what is your prayer to the Lord?" So many times. My prayer to the Lord is being, "Lord, lift my complaining spirit and help me to rejoice in all things." I hate that. I hate it that it's in me too. But many times we are learning slowly to do everything. If you want to follow the text of Scripture that says, "Pray without ceasing," try that. Just follow every conversation. Ask yourself, "So what's your prayer to the Lord?" Boy, it takes some doing to think of it too. I'd rather bellyache, and I'd rather find another human being and pound on him for a while than I would do the work of actually looking into my own soul and saying, "God, this is what I actually want." And some of us, when we find out what we actually want, wouldn't tell God that for anything. We don't like what we find inside, right? So why go there? Yell at somebody else? Yeah, I'm like that too. Or else come up with a corny theology that says, when pants lined up in the tree, God's with us. And when he's not, and there's no pants in the tree, or there's no water on the ground, complain or shut up and move on. To actually encounter the God you claim you believe in whose name you started out in this journey, that's too much like work. And to say to those people in the part of leadership, You're asking the wrong person. Let me help you direct your attention, which is good spiritual direction. How can I help you pray? Help me pray! I don't need prayer. I need water. I get where we're at in this whole process here. I don't want to look at God. I don't want to talk to God. I don't want to be there. I just want what I want. What is your prayer to the Lord? But the people were thirsty for water there, and you can't live without it. So the narrator is not willing to let this old story off. They're thirsty. They're going to die. Maybe they're wrong. They're still going to die. And they complain to Moses, why did you take us from Egypt and drag us out here with our children and animals to die of thirst? This is a recording. We've heard it before. Foregone conclusion. Nothing good is going to happen here. Something bad is going to happen here. I just knew it all along. So I'm going to make sure somebody else knows about it. And I'm going to let them have it. And I'm a little afraid to talk to God like that because I might die even earlier than I think I'm going to die. So, where's the pastor? I'm going to hammer him or her. Let them have it. Because there are a whole lot of unresolved issues in my life, and I'd rather deliver them to somebody else. Why did you take us from Egypt and drag us out here with our children and animals to die of thirst? Because God told me to. That's how the story goes, isn't it? Did God bring us here or not? And I love the part in here. Why did you do this? I had no consent. You chained me up to something and dragged me out of Egypt. I protested the whole way. You can tell. We've encountered this before, so many of you. Getting to the place where you face the issues raised by your own commitment and your own journey. I hate that. It's not my brother, not my sister. It's me, O Lord, standing in the need of prayer. And these are my issues. This is my problem. Or as they say in the Caribbean, problem belong you. I hate that. It just happens to be true. Problem belong me. But problem can be exported to another person and they can handle it. And Moses cried out in prayer to God, what can I do with these people? Got me? Nothing. What can I do with these people? Any minute now they'll kill me. Now it's about Moses. It's not about water. It's not about their death. It's not even about God. It's about him. He took the bait. I wonder how many times we do that too. It seems clear to me that there is a point at which Israel needs to learn that Israel can go to God. So the appropriate thing might have been to say, Moses, would you go and intercede on our behalf because we're going to die because there's no water here. God, in the past, has supplied our needs and promised himself to us, and we trust him for it. But just like somebody to do all the praying. Because we're not that good at it. That would have been a good step, wouldn't it? God said to Moses, go on ahead of the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel, as though we need witnesses for this. Take the staff you used to strike the Nile. I can see when he picks up the staff, because it was used both for judgment and for blessing. And I can hear people saying it's kind of like when mother takes out the wooden spoon. Oh. Maybe we should have kept our mouth shut. I'll tell you what, you go look for one. Take out the staff you used to strike the Nile and go. I'm going to be present before you there in the rock of Horeb. You're to strike the rock. Water will gush out of it and the people will drink. What? No retribution? No, I'm offended by all this stuff? No, you were wrong? No, none of that. Just take the staff, take the witnesses, go to the rock, strike it, the water will come up and it'll be all good. Just like that. there wouldn't be any grace here, would there? Mercy? God wouldn't be like that, would he? Does God ever get that benefit of the doubt? Moses did what he said with the elders of Israel right there watching. He named the place Massah, testing place, and Meribah, quarreling, because of the quarreling of the Israelites and because of their testing of God. What they said, is God here with us or not? Now I think we would have called it the town Hassel, Alberta. Is God here with us or not? That's the question. How do you know? Let me extend this a little bit. This story comes together over centuries and is finally written not for the people it's about, but for people who come multiplied generations later, long after the promised land to which these people are going has been won and lost and stripped away from them, and they have been taken as exiles into another nation where multiplied generations have had enough time to forget the whole thing. And then, with that whole nation in ruins, the temple that they built to glorify God torn to the ground, and everything gone, somebody comes along and says, we're going back. Who's in? Are you kidding? I don't even know that story. I don't even know that God. I don't know anything about this. Why in the world do you think I went back up from my fine life here in this nation and walked through rocks to get back to who knows what? And why in the world would I ever want to do it? Give me one good reason. Oh, maybe the God who called you to be this kind of people, this is who you are. We had to tell this story, we had to write this story, we had to codify this story, and it had to get out there so that a whole race of people could rise up, as many as would come again, and take a long trip back to start all over again. And hear these stories say, it happened to them, it's going to happen to us. But let me extend it a little further. There was one who came in the name of all of those people, and who the New Testament says was the fulfillment of all their obligations in his own person. His name was Jesus Christ. He fulfilled all righteousness for Israel in his life of obedience unto God. He comes to the point of the cross. You know that story. And they looked at him and said, is God with him or not? Because like I signed on with Jesus Christ, I can hear the disciples, but not for this. Not for this cross. Not for the challenge of being out there where God will be revealed for what he's really like. Now, I'm sorry. I'm going fishing. Which is often the answer of my soul. There's a chorus that's has in it the little line, when the darkness closes in, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. The first time I heard that sung, I noticed my heart saying, I will not. You can keep the darkness out. And I thought, what in the world has happened to me? Oh, God, I need some help here. Because my identity began at that cross. There, not only was Christ crucified for me, but I was crucified with Christ. I bear the cross of myself. Only in that way have I any share in his resurrection. Unless I go through Friday, there ain't no Sunday. Oh. God and I had to go to the woodshed. I still do. It's what Lent's for. Lent's for saying, don't let me bypass Friday just because I like Sunday better. That's the part that's the problem. I need to be delivered over into the one who gives me my identity. His name is Jesus Christ. One more story. I'll close. One of my favorite 20th century examples in a large group of someone following the way of Christ is the German church. Prior to the Second World War, the German church, I think it's fair to say this, was subverted by the regime of Adolf Hitler. This can be documented many times over. There were a few that protested against that and came out with a declaration that said, Jesus Christ is the head of the church. The state is not the head of the church and never will be. For that, some of them died. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the famous Lutheran pastor who lost his life for his resistance to the idea that the state runs the church. Having recognized at the end of the war what had actually followed, what the state had actually done, how it had actually flouted the church that it had sought to subvert, how the nation was split, how the national church was split, and how in East Germany that nation now sat under communism and under its overt rather than covert atheism and its hatred of the church and its suppression of the church and its resistance to Christians. They asked the question, is God with us or not? No, they asked another question. The question we've got to ask, how is God with us now? That's the question. And I'd like to pin a medal on everybody who was willing to even ask the question rather than saying, could I get a plane ticket out of here? Quick, before they build the Berlin Wall and other things like that. Could I please escape this stuff because I don't want to deal with it. I like Sunday, I hate Friday. What they said in East Germany was, we are not for communism, we are not against communism, but in the righteousness of God, we are in communism and we will stay. Friday commands that we live righteous lives here and now and help people understand how you bear witness to Jesus Christ in a nation whose state no longer honors Christ in any way and just flat out tells you, forget it. 30 years of suffering under that later. The state said, Christianity is good. It helps people become better communists. How much would it be worth to you to have a whole state reverse its position on religion and make that kind of a statement because they had seen the lived Friday and Sunday's coming lives of a whole church? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How's God with us? There's the Lent question.